Hi, I'm Lisa K. Donner, along with Jeff Charles, Sarah Cowgill, Scott Cosenza, and Tim Donner. And this is the Conservative Five, Liberty Nation's online TV news program. Every now and again, the C5 panel likes to leave the weighty analysis behind and simply have a romp in the swamp and call out the crazies. It's fun and downright cathartic at times. So we got a few bonehead picks to amuse you today. Now, we are a competitive bunch. So let's see who's got the best of the weirdest, wonkiest, boniest boneheads of the week. All right, let's start with Mr. Charles down in Texas. What do you got for us, Jeff?
Yeah, so this video shows yet another situation in which President Joe Biden doesn't know how to answer a simple question. This time it was about Russian President Vladimir Putin.
In a weekend interview, Vladimir Putin laughed at the suggestion that you had called him a killer. Is that still your belief, sir, that he is a killer? And I'll continue the trend if you don't mind of asking a second question. Do you believe if he does agree to cooperate, then what kind of a challenge do you find yourself in? How would you ever trust him? And if Ronald Reagan said trust but verify, what do you say to Vladimir Putin?
To answer the first question, I'm laughing too. Well, look, I mean, he has made clear that the answer is, I believe he has in the past essentially acknowledged that he was, there are certain things that he would do or did do. But look, when I was asked that question on air, I answered it honestly. But it's not much of I don't think it matters a whole lot in terms of this next meeting we're about to have.
When I saw that clip, I was disturbed for two reasons. One,
just two?
Doesn't the patriotism just overwhelm you when you hear it? I mean, the fondness for the man himself. I want to drive down to the White House right now with an American flag and just sing the Star Spangled Banner in honor.
I was so embarrassed for our country. I'm like, that was an embarrassment. I was even embarrassed for him. I felt bad for Biden. I'm like, why is this guy in this position? I felt embarrassed. And actually, I felt sorry for our president because he couldn't even articulate a response about Vladimir Putin being a killer. It was just, how did this guy get in office, and why do people continue to prop him up? And why does anybody actually think he's going to make it through his whole entire first term? This is not like a normal guy here. He's too old for this job.
He couldn't stand at a dual press conference with Putin, and it gave Putin the ability to just say whatever he wanted, uncontested, because he knew that Joe Biden wasn't up to contesting it.
Okay, let me just say, this cannot be our boneheaded comment of the week. It's pitiful. I mean, it's a crawl under the pew moment. It is so sad.
It's not even necessarily that it's Biden the bonehead. It's the Biden handlers and the wife. And,
excuse me, it's Dr. Sarah.
It's Dr. Joe Biden.
Dr. Biden.
Sorry, I don't have to say that.
Please, Sarah.
That's the new rule. That's federal law now. You have to say
it.
I'm not saying it.
All right.
Not saying it.
All right, let's move on to Sarah, since she's so argumentative today, which is why we love her.
Is this any other day? I mean, have you met me?
It's a day that ends in Y, right?
All right, let's
pretty much.
Okay, well, there was a couple of things in my mind. I couldn't find the clip of Kamala Harris addressing the press corps, handing out cookies of her face and asking them, don't you want to eat my face? There was no video of that. So I settled on our president again. And this mortifies me.
I'll take your questions. And as usual, folks, they gave me a list of the people I'm going to call on. So, Jonathan, Associated Press.
Thank you, sir. U.S. intelligence has said that Russia tried to interfere in the last two presidential elections and that Russia groups are behind hacks like...
Well, what makes this so horrifying, it's almost like he was reading the prompts on the teleprompter, is that he's telling the press corps Hey, I only got a list of people I can answer questions to. It's telling the American people I have answers to the questions I know I'm going to get from the press corps. That is inherently wrong.
It pulls the curtain back on Oz. It's who's handling him, who's authorizing who to get the questions and who's get to get the answers. It's not Joe Biden. So no. I think it is a total bonehead.
I fear that if we looked at those, they'd be like illustrative panels, like,
Right. Picture the guy's face with an AP badge rather than his name.
Well, this is what you get from somebody who's been in the DC swamp for 50 years, give or take. I mean, we
have the benefit of all that experience and leadership, Tim, guiding us. It's a comfort, really.
Yeah, but the true boneheads here are the media. There's a reason why I call them the activist media. They should be calling this out. They should not. There is absolutely no world in which they should allow a president to do that and not say anything about it. This says a lot more about our fourth estate than about anybody else. The fact that they won't even bother to utter an unkind word about President Biden for doing this.
Can you imagine if it was Donald Trump and he just only called on a couple conservative outlets? What would the headlines would run for weeks about it?
I mean, Barack Obama had contempt for the press corps because they were so phony. He basically had no respect for them because they saw him as always this first black president and we're going to lift him up. And, Joe Biden, he's a product of the Washington swamp and of the Obama administration. You put the two of them together and you get stuff like that.
All right. Next, we're going with Tim.
Critical race theory has now become mainstream in academia and on the left. And it's become the new hot button issue of our time. And it exploded just near where we are now. In the Loudoun County School Board, and people were up in arms about the school board in that county adopting critical race theory to teach the parents' children.
Resign! Resign, coward!
The Western culture and values that brought forth Christianity in the founding documents are being called evil and racist.
I'm reminded of the tyranny of communist China, where your money is legally stolen and then used in government schools, not public schools. These are not public schools. These are government schools, like here, to indoctrinate children against their parents.
My child is not oppressed, and don't assume that. As long as you Marxists push your unconstitutional agenda on my child, she will not be returning back to Loudoun County schools.
A black woman saying, I'm not going to have my kids taught critical race theory. And she called it what it is, Marxist. And, they also shut down about 90% of the people that wanted to talk at that meeting. There were 259 people at that meeting who had signed up to talk. And they shut it off after like 24 because they were all people who were outraged. It's disgraceful. And the people of Loudoun County, Virginia, have become ground zero for this battle.
Well, I am one of the people of Loudoun County, Virginia, as a matter of fact, Tim, and I've been in that room for various hearings, both as a participant, a resident, and also as a reporter for LibertyNation.com on some gun control matters, among others. And they do have a fondness for cutting off debate when it gets heated and directed in a manner that opposes those in power. So I'm familiar with that quite a bit. For my bonehead of the week, I chose Lori Lightfoot, Chicago's intrepid mayor, and her comments about crime in the city of Chicago.
Whole world's watching video from Humboldt Park this past weekend. 2 people in a minor car accident suddenly swarmed and shot execution style the latest victims of Chicago's worst violence in years. Mayor Lightfoot, though, is taking credit for slowing down the rate of increase.
Now, I'm the first to tell you that's cold comfort to a single person who's been shot, a single person who's been killed.
In fact, City Hall's own website shows murders so far in 2021 are up 5% over last year and up an astounding 29% over the year before that. The director of the mayor's Office of Violence Reduction joined a police news conference to praise Lightfoot's strategy of mobilizing resources beyond police alone.
We are very encouraged by the progress that we've seen so far this year. This year, we've employed an all-city and all-government response. So that includes involving city departments, streets and sands, BACP, et cetera, libraries, parks, but also community-based organizations as well.
So it's a big surprise out of the Windy City that the mayor's chief of police has applauded her efforts to reduce crime. I don't think anybody saw that coming. She's a bonehead because instead of saying, hey, we've got a nationwide murder epidemic and we're doing the best we can, but it's everywhere, it's not just Chicago, which is a good politician's answer. False, but a good politician's answer, I think. She's touted her own bona fides as some kind of reducer of murders just because there would be more if she weren't in office. You know, there's the greatest television show depicting criminals and police is The Wire. And there's a great scene in it where they're basically, the police captains are told to reduce crime so that the numbers are better for the politicians' reelection campaigns. And one of the district commanders says, you know, I can make a felony into a misdemeanor, but you want me to hide bodies? You know, how do I do something with a killing? So homicide statistics have always been the gold standard of statistics for policing in cities because you can't hide the body. They can juke all the numbers they want with those other crimes. But what the homicide statistics tell us is that they're doing a horrible job. And for pointing that out to those of us who understand those stats, that's a bonehead move for Lightfoot.
Well, it seems like Lori Lightfoot is basically answering the question, when did you stop beating your wife? Because it's, yeah, we have a murderous rampage in our city. It's been going on for years, but we think we're doing pretty well and we're not going to ignore it anymore. Is that basically what she's saying?
I think basically she's not even telling the truth. I don't know what she's doing. We know that. Numbers. I don't know what she's doing with her numbers, but that's not exactly what I saw. And coming from a place within travel, you know, a couple hours travel distance to Chicago, and that used to be the hub for all of us for concerts and you know, nightlife and things like that. Ain't nobody going. Nobody that I know will go back to Chicago.
She might have been able to make that boast maybe 2 years ago, because before 2020, crime was actually going down in Chicago. However, in 2020 and where it's trending for 2021, it's not looking so good. She doesn't have anything to boast about. What she should be talking about, if she wanted to be honest, is, hey, crime went up. Here's what we're going to do to get it back down. But she didn't.
Why didn't she just say, hey, crime went up because of Donald Trump? That's what everybody else is doing. I mean, blame it on him. He's the catch-all, isn't he?
Now, according to Lori Lightfoot, crime goes up because there are guns in America. But anyway, it's just...
Somehow white supremacy and guns are always involved, I'm sure.
Yeah.
True.
Well, finally, I'm going to go with mine. I apologize in advance for going back to the watering hole on this one, but Joe Scarborough makes it so easy to come up with a boneheaded comment. I listened to Morning Joe for about 60 seconds and caught this little ditty. And quite frankly, I find it mouth-dropping. Hit it, Frankie.
I've really been taken by progressives and the restraint they've shown, the discipline they've shown in negotiating. And again, I say this is, these are people that are acting like they actually want to govern, know how to govern, and they've sort of stood back and let everybody talk about Manchin. They're choosing their shots, but you know, President Obama, Stacey Abrams coming out and supporting voter ID, supporting, you know, purging the rolls every few years. That's really significant stuff, isn't it?
Okay, Jeff, I saw your face while this was going, so go ahead, let it rip.
You know, there's a word that Senator Chuck Schumer got in trouble for using. I'm not going to say it, but that's what popped in my head when I just heard that. And to me, it's like the progressive wing has not been restrained. They've been whining this whole time. They've been bashing Biden and the moderates over the past few years. So yeah, they're weighing in on Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin because they want this radical agenda to go through. Now, I'm sure that there are some in the socialist wing that wishes it would go further. At the same time, they're not being really silent about this.
It's amazing how many conservatives turned into leftists during the Trump years. Joe Scarborough was a conservative congressman from Florida. Now he's a voice for the left because of his personal hatred for Donald Trump. Now he's defending progressives.
I don't think you're 100% right there about his personal hatred, Tim. It also has to do with what dinner parties he gets to get invited to.
Okay.
If he maintained his pro-Trump status, those invites would have gone way downhill.
Okay, you're right. My mistake.
I mean, the guy is basically opposing voter ID because, he wants to get a free steak. I mean, I don't see why he even has a show anymore. It's absurd.
He's a joke. He's a joke. Morning joke.
All right. So we've run out of time to vote this week, but hopefully you'll tell us your pick on our comments section. No. And thank you.
Easy choice, folks. Easy choice.
We will award the winner with something grand and tell you about it next week. Thanks for joining us. Remember, there's nothing more boneheaded than our current political climate. So remember to hop on over to libertynation.com for a little bit of sanity each day. That's it for our Conservative 5 panel today. Check out our other C5 shows and segments on your favorite video platform, YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble. We're on them all. As well, Liberty Nation has its own Roku channel where you can see all our TV productions. Thanks so much for tuning in, and remember to surf on over to libertynation.com. Sign up for our new member zone, just $29.99 for the entire year. This has been a production of libertynation.com, conservative news where truth matters.